Back in 2010, Zorbaz Restaurant and owner Tom Hansen asked the city of Detroit Lakes if they could expand the back area by putting some kind of a deck back there. Before that, they had used a tent and had a very successful summer with that, and in 2010 they wanted that to continue. It was a little controversial at the time because of some agreement with impervious surfaces and some other restrictions that Zorbaz, with this type of addition, would actually be violating some city codes and city policy when it comes to zoning. After much negotiations, basically the city of Detroit Lakes granted Tom Hansen and Zorbaz Restaurant the variance to build the backyard area they have there now and that decked area. Well, late last month in a special meeting, the city of Detroit Lakes and Zorbaz Restaurant decided on an agreement in which that back deck area will be torn up. Not because I've heard it wasn't successful business-wise, but because the impervious surface space exceeded the 62%, which was specified in the variance, and the deck flooring that is behind that area was also not specified in the original planning. Now, part of the agreement to get this expansion for Zorbaz in the first place was an $80,000 donation to the city of Detroit Lakes, which was used to build the People's Park parking area, which a lot of people use, including Zorbaz patrons and many other patrons here in the city of Detroit Lakes. So what can we take away from this? Well, I've always said the city of Detroit Lakes, or any city in general, needs to be as business friendly as possible. I really looked at this expansion for Zorbaz as a chance to help their business and increase their business, which I believe they did during the summer months when people like to be outside eating and when people like to enjoy that back deck area. I don't know how tearing it out will affect this next summer. I don't know how tearing it out will affect the bottom line for Zorbaz restaurants. I assume they'll be okay. I also know that in the agreement signed between the city and Zorbaz, there'll be no fines or no additional penalties for the restaurant chain once they've completed the tasks within the time allotted by the city in order to get that structure out of there. So what does this mean then, or what does this say about the event? Well, it was kind of a controversial issue in 2010. I felt basically Zorbaz was allowed to expand and break the rules because they had enough money to give the city something that the city really wanted and knew it needed to save money on, and that was that parking lot there in People's Park at the time that this skating rink and skating area was going in there, along with the skate park, which was already established, etc., etc. So I felt it was one of these situations where they basically let the business do what they wanted to do in order to get a special incentive that probably no other company in town or no other business would have been able to pull off. Now, the parking lot is already there, and I don't believe that's going to change, nor should it change. The agreement's an agreement there. Unfortunately, Zorbaz was the one who, it appears, violated the terms of the agreement between the city and the restaurant by putting in the wooden floor and going beyond the 62% impervious surface. Now, Zorbaz can go through the normal planning process in order to get that building back. However, I'm sure they'll run into the same problems they did before they got the variances, and that is resistance from environmentalists and different types of groups that are worried about the impervious surface and, of course, the runoff, which is a legitimate issue in the lakes area. One of the biggest pollutants for our lakes and rivers is both turbidity and too much, basically, phosphorus and other types of fertilizers getting into the water, either making it too much sediment in there or too much algae bloom in there. And runoff contributes greatly to that, both in rivers and in town. However, I don't believe the little space we're talking about, Zorbaz, would necessarily cause a huge difference in the lake. But I digress. Rules are rules. They're put in place for a reason. But it makes it real tough for me to harp on any government too much about their zoning policies when we have a prime example here of when the government, local government, the city of Detroit Lakes, fudged the rules on their zoning policies for a local business in order to help it grow. And then that local business did something they weren't supposed to do with it. It makes it very tough for future businesses that might want same consideration from the city, when we've already got an example here of where the city gave an inch, but the business took a mile. Now, whether we'll see that continue in the future, I don't know. I like the back deck area of Zorbaz. I hope they rebuild it. I just don't know currently, after what just happened and them agreeing to now tear it up, if that's a realistic thing that can happen anytime soon.